Okay, welcome everyone. I have such a treat for you today. Today we have my friend Sarah who's going to come and tell her story. And you all already know a little bit of Sarah. She is one of the ladies that will just sometimes, out of the generosity of her own heart and her own fun for creativity and love for creativity, she's the one who writes some of the spicy stories that you get to listen to in Patreon. So when I say this is written by Sarah, this is the girl. So as we listen to her story, please engage in the comments. Please like, comment anything that kind of resonates with you or speaks with you, or just anything that you want to say. And also just cheer Sarah on and let's thank her for coming on and sharing her story with us. So, welcome, 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 Sarah. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Perfect. So, I just want to start off with first thanking you for being here. Thank you for always using your creativity to add extra spice and fun and love and romance and all of that to the Patreon community. I do really, really appreciate that. And I just want to start with so I want to know your story and whatever you want to share of your story. But my first question for you is, as you've gone through your journey, when and how have you cultivated the most self-love and softness and compassion for yourself?
I would say the self-love and compassion for myself has definitely started amping up in the last 6 months, maybe. Definitely part of my stories, as you'd mentioned, that is a big part of the self-love. As I go throughout my story on this video, I will be discussing some things that some of you watching may find it triggering, and I will say trigger warning. I do want to address some of those things and how I overcame them. And so the spicy stories and meditating and just coming out has just been a big part of cultivating that. And there's been a lot of pieces of cultivating that self-love and that acceptance. And I'm sure that as I continue to talk, I'll remember some things and I'll be able to give more specific examples. But I think it's important to say my story. And so some of y'all, I know a lot of us ladies out there feel alone. And I just want to all of you know you're not alone. We're in this together. So I love each and every one of you, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Aw, I love that. Okay, Sarah, so how about you just take a moment and introduce yourself? Tell us what you think is important for us to know about beautiful you.
So my name is Sarah Kowalczyk. I grew up and I was born in 1990. So I definitely a 90s kid. Grew up with a lot of just that whole culture, the Backstreet Boys and sync. Music was a big part of my life. I grew up on the Doors and the Beatles and the Who and all them. Um, a few things to know about me is I do have dissociative identity disorder. For those of you who don't know what that is what was formerly called multiple personalities. So I have about 10 different parts, and they manifest throughout, the time. And each day I take time to allow them to be out and about. So that is an aspect of it. I cannot transition right now medically because I have muscular dystrophy, and it's called FSHD. And I'm sure some people will be watching this that may have it. And so that's been a big part of my story. I've also been sober for 17 and a half years. So, I have a very interesting life, and I will be going into a lot of that today. We don't have time for me to tell everything in my life, but I'll definitely be hitting a lot of the points.
Perfect. And okay, so let's start with when did you come out and when did you transition socially? Because I know you
Mhm.
said you can't really transition medically right now, but you have transitioned socially. So kind of share a little bit about that journey and into living as a woman full time.
Yeah, so I came out in, let me see here, it's what year? 2025 right now.
Hmm.
So I came out 4 years ago, about 4 years to the day. And a big part, I waited a long time. I'm now 34, I'll be 35 in July. And so I got to a point where I was just like, I can't keep this suppressed anymore. Not only I can't, but I won't. I refuse to keep hiding this part of myself because I got very, very dark. And I was just like, you know what? Hell with it. I'm going to open up and be myself. And when I initially came out, see, my parents were the last people I told. Well, one of the last people. I told my sister-in-law, who I told her first out of everybody. And then I ended up telling my brother, and I came out twice because when I first came out, I came out as gender fluid and pan. Um, I figured if I was gender fluid, I'd still be a male some of the time, and so I thought that's kind of was the best way to do it. And then a couple months later, I fully came out as trans. And that's been a very interesting experience. I did lose people. A person that I felt like was a brother to me for almost 3 decades. He was initially supportive. Then a week later, he called and told me what he really thought. And I decided, okay, you're gone out of my life. And a few other people were like that. And it was definitely discouraging and painful in a way, but I knew, like coming out, I knew there was going to be people who were going to be like that. I found that a surprising amount of people just didn't care. They were just like, okay, like I don't understand it, but if you're happy, that's great. Um, and so I've really surrounded myself with the people who do support my coming out. And even my dad was more accepting than my mom at first. Um, and even he said to one of the people that guy that um, was a total jerk about it, he told my dad told him like, look, they gotta, my dad was calling me he still at that time, so he's like, he's gotta live his life. Yeah, you gotta be you to be happy. So it was really cool having the support of a lot of people, and I know that there's a lot of us that don't get that support, so I'm very honored that I was able to. And no matter what anyone else says, y'all have a community out here. I know there was a big part, I walked away from a lot of relatives, because to me, blood doesn't make you family. Family's earned. Like you're not just instantly family. So that was a big aspect. So for anyone who's afraid to walk away from people because they're blood related, I wish you the best and you deserve to walk away from them. You don't owe those people anything. So,
Yeah. That's so true. It makes me really reflect too. Like I've known you for a really long time then because I think you started like you reached out and emailed me shortly before you came out to your sister-in-law.
mhm.
So that's a long time. Wow.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So it's really cool. Um, okay, I'm curious, what are the things that are bringing you the most happiness right now?
the things that are bringing the most happiness are getting my nails done. I love getting those done, and they're very pretty. And um, let's see what else. The writings, expressing myself openly, thinking for myself. I've gotten away from a lot of the growing up being expected to believe certain things. Like I was raised Presbyterian, Baptist, and Catholic, so I got what I call the Trinity.
Yeah.
And I've walked away from all of that and thinking for myself, cultivating my own belief system. So that's been really helpful, and just being who I am,
Mhm.
um, and learning about what it's the so-called rules that I thought that I had to follow. Like initially, I thought I had to go to Victoria's Secret, and like, hey, look, I if you want to go there, go for it. It's a fun place. Personally, I found a lot of better stuff at other places, but that's just one of the things. Like I thought I had to
Mhm.
go to Victoria's Secret. I thought I had to stop liking a lot of the masculine things that I enjoy. Like I love UFC, I love horror movies, I love video games, and then I realized, no, I don't have to stop doing any of that stuff. I can still do all of that and be a woman. So,
Yeah, I love that you just kind of were like, wait a sec. First, I have all these rules I need to follow. Okay, this is where I shop. This is what I like now. I don't like these things anymore. And then you're like, wait, that's not who I am, though. Like, I can have my own interests. It's just
right.
yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that. Because like sometimes we have like gender neutral, right? Like yellow is a gender neutral color or green, right? And like I know even like for me when I had my son, it was very much like instead of saying, "Oh, those are boy toys" or "these are girl toys," we're just like, "Oh, whatever you want to play with." You know,
Right.
whatever you're curious about, what all of these things. So I think it's so fun now that you're like letting yourself do that now. It's like, no, no, no. It doesn't have to be categorized. It's just, what do I like? Cool.
Yeah,
That's me then. I love that.
absolutely. And another big aspect of cultivating the happiness and being joyful is when I watched Will and Harper. I
Oh.
think everybody should see that. I've seen it 15 times now. And in one of the scenes, they're interviewing a trans woman, and she talks about her voice. And that was a big moment for me because, I did ask myself afterwards, like, do I want to change my voice because I want to change it or because that's what society expects?
Mm.
And personally, I've gotten to the point where I love my voice, and with the job that I do, it's perfect for it. So I'm gonna stick with that. And I love my voice, and it's awesome. Just
What's the part in Will and Harper? Like, what does she say that was like a game changer for you?
she says, I mean, the entire documentary is,
Oh yeah, it's good. We
um,
watched it. Yeah.
but in that instance, she said she was going to a voice coach, and she got home one night and she just thought to herself, like, am I doing this because I want this voice
Mhm.
changed? Like, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, but am I doing this for myself or am I doing this because society expects it?
Yeah. It's one of the rules I gotta follow.
Hmm.
Mhm. I love that. It's so interesting that you mentioned that because a couple days ago I put a post on my TikTok and I was like, "Hey, I'm just curious if you had a magic wand and you can change any part of your transition, whether it was socially, medically, emotionally, whatever. If you could change any part to be smoother and more resistance free, what would it be?" And so many people said their voice, that they would change their voice. And I know so many people even say like, I pass until I speak. And so I know the voice can be something that weighs on a lot of people or takes away from their confidence. So it sounds like though you found a way to be like, hey, this is my voice, and life is, I want to enjoy my life. And so I'm just going to give myself permission to have the voice I have. And like, what would you add to that?
A big, I got to the point eventually where I just stopped caring what people think of me, because that was the biggest aspect. Once I was just like, I don't care what everyone thinks about me. That was when I was able to be like, you know what? Yeah, I got a deep voice. So what?
So just kind
And
of freed you.
yeah, it freed me. I also realized like, our time on this current plane of existence
Hmm.
is way too short to care what other people think.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, you know what? I could stress myself out, but I'm going to be me either way. Um, and I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm
Right.
doing this for me. So,
Right. And at the same time, life is way too long to also just live it for everybody else, right? It's like it's
yeah,
short, but it's going so fast, but then it's also really long to just be like, oh, I'm going to sacrifice my whole life, so other people feel comfortable.
right.
They'll still find things to be upset about, because that's how people are. So, okay, Sarah, so let's take us back now. So many people have shared like they knew something was different about them when they were like a little one. So, okay, just kind of jump into your story wherever you want and include like if you bring up any challenges, include how you moved through those challenges. Even if you hit like rock bottom, like then what? Like share a little bit of like the tools and skills you've gained along your journey and any resources
Yes.
or anything like that. Just okay, I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah. So I knew right away, like I was, I mean, I it's not even different. Like I knew I was a woman, a girl at that point. The different about me was I was a very weird kid.
Okay.
Like I would, while all the other kids were playing with stuff and toys and stuff, I would literally sit in the corner and just look at the wall. And I was very antisocial, and I still am that way. I very much like to keep to myself. And I did like girly things, and I did like also like masculine things, and I just wasn't like other kids. Like I know at one point my mom told me, like, yeah, sending you to your room was not like a punishment. I was just trying to get back there anyways.
You're
And
like,
so,
ooh, me time.
like, yes, I get to go to my room and play with my toys. And I was always closer to girls anyways than I was any of the boys. And yeah, like the sports and this and the that, I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't care. I will play video games and read and write and just keep to myself. And one of the big aspects when I was about, I don't even remember, I was maybe like 5. And my best friend, one of my person who's still one of my best friends, who's also named Stephanie, um, I grew up with her and I was hanging out with her and she was like wanting to dress me up
Okay.
and like a dress and heels and stuff like this. And at first I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then I agreed like 5 seconds later. And so even I, and when we did that, like she put the makeup on me and the lipstick and this really pretty dress. And I was like, holy crap, this is me. Like I feel amazing. I feel beautiful.
Wow.
And so I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed being dressed up and being pretty and
Mm.
doing nice, pretty things for myself. That was a big part of like embracing myself and embracing Sarah. Um, Now, I did have some people that found out about that, and I was severely bullied
Mm.
most of my life. And so when that happened, and they found out and some things they did to me, I was just like, okay, I can't do that again. Of course, I'm not going to talk about it because, why would I do that? Why would I talk about my
Mhm.
feelings? And so I learned very quickly that, well, I was conditioned very quickly that being soft, being feminine, being girly was not acceptable.
Mhm.
And I did fight a lot, and I grew up in a household with a lot of drinking, a lot of fighting, a lot of just chaos.
Mhm.
And so I didn't really have time to be like gentle and femme,
Yeah.
because I had to be that like fighter and I had to,
Mhm.
and honestly, the other aspect is I'm realizing I can be a fighter and still be a woman.
Mhm.
That's another big thing. So I, after that experience and after people found out some stuff, and I was just like, nope, I just closed it off and just stuffed it deep down inside.
So can I pause you there for one
Mhm.
second? So when you went from that moment of feeling like, oh my gosh, this is me. I feel so beautiful, so free, to then having that be like, oh, this is not safe. Oh, I gotta tuck this away. How, as like a little one, did you process that, handle that? Like, did it break your heart? Like, what did you do with all of those emotions?
I think I'm not 100% sure what I did. At that point, that's when some of my other
Mhm.
personalities started manifesting, to help me survive and help me process that. And I just I didn't process it, to be honest. I was just like, okay, we just gotta keep moving. We don't have time to process.
So it was just survive, just survive. That's not safe, so don't do that.
Exactly.
So even though a part of you, like your inner little girl, was probably like completely devastated, it was
Mhm.
like, okay, but we've been devastated before, and when scary things happen and unsafe things happen, then we just put that away, and that's a no, and then we keep going.
Right. Exactly.
And which makes sense then why you thought there was all these rules you had to follow
Mhm.
when you transitioned, because you're like, oh, wait, my whole life I was like, oh, I got to follow these rules to stay safe. So these are the rules I have to follow. And then you're like, wait a second, I can shop anywhere I want. Like, what am I
Right.
doing? So it's so cool that you came from a place of like surviving to truly thriving. I know that
Mhm.
sounds so cliche, like everyone says that now, but it's like you really are an example of surviving to thriving. So,
Yeah. And there's times throughout that she tried to get out.
mhm.
And, part of that was I started drinking at a really early age.
Okay.
My first time was 9 years old.
Okay.
And then of course I was like, oh, I'll never do that again. But I mean, she was out and about when I was drunk. She was like, oh, okay, you get to do
Yeah.
all this. And then of course the I'll never do that again only lasted a couple of years. Um, but there were times where she was like, I want to be free, like let me out.
Mhm.
And other personalities were manifesting around that time. Of course, this isn't like a thing about DID, so I'll not go into too much detail on that.
Okay.
But I also, there was a few times where I did experiment with other boys, um, and that felt really good.
Mhm.
Um, and then in middle school, and this is just a trigger warning for some of you out who are going to listen to this. I started to trust again, and I started to be like, okay, people do accept me, which was initially shut off by the rules and by the religious abuse that I experienced. And two men, I wouldn't call them men, they were my age at that time, they're middle schoolers. Um, they convinced me that I was their friend. And they ended up luring me into a back room and trying to rape me I did end up fighting both of them off and getting away, but I also vowed like never to trust again and to just not talk about it. Like it was the same thing. It was like, okay, we gotta stuff this down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's when my involvement with criminal life and drugs really kicked into play. And of course, during that time, in order to survive in that life, there was no way I could express any sort of
Yeah.
softness. I had to be tough and didn't.
Yeah.
So she got locked away for a very long time.
Yeah, that makes sense because there was another, and it's so unfortunate that you're like, okay, I'm gonna trust you. Oh, I'm making friends. Okay. And then bam. And then to be like, oh, and uh it makes sense then to like the walls, the armor, and to go really hardcore into like the deep masculinity, the deep unhealthy masculine, right? To be like,
Mhm.
I'm really tough. I'll beat anybody up. I'm raw, like to really to just try to push that side so far away
You're
to
right.
keep yourself safe. So then what helped you move forward from there?
What
Or how did you move forward from there, I guess?
One of the biggest things that helped me, and I didn't realize it was a good thing at the time, but I do now. I eventually was under investigation and I was still at that time being like, oh, I'm good, I'm tough, I can, and realize I was terrified because I was facing felony charges and
Oof.
I ended up getting sent away to, it was 2 months, January through February, in a place called Sus of the Carolinas, which is in North Carolina. So for 2 months, I slept in the snow and the mud and ate barely what I could to survive. And it was pure survival, but there was also no contact with the outside world. And what they said was called no future information. So we weren't allowed to know what day it was, what time it was, where we were going.
Oh.
It was all about like stay in that moment.
Wait, so why do you go to this place? Like, did the court send you? Did your parents send you? And
My
is this like an alternative program? What is this?
Yes, all of the above.
Okay.
Kind of. So like I got sent there. No other place would take me in
Okay.
until I went to that place.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay.
And I sat down with my lawyer and my parents, and that was one of the few times in my life where my dad actually showed up.
Wow.
So he did actually show up, and he was like, "Okay, what do we need to do?"
Mm.
Um, and my lawyer said, like, look, if you stick around here, you're going to get sent away. Like you're going to go to jail. You cannot beat these
Oh,
charges.
okay.
And my mom was like, no, you don't have a choice. You're getting out of here. And so the first month in the wilderness program, I really, I was just like trying everything I could to get out of there. And finally, and a month into it, I wrote a letter home and very cheesily, very manipulatively, I said, only you have the power to get me out. And my mom basically wrote back a letter saying, no, you're staying in. We're not getting you out.
Oh, wow.
So then I was like, okay, I got to really work on myself.
Hmm.
And that's when my search and journey for identity began.
Oh.
And then after that, after I graduated there, I was sent to a ranch in New Mexico for a year and a half. It was an old tuberculosis hospital that had been transformed into a treatment center residential place. So I spent a year and a half out there
And
learning a
this was for
lot.
youth. Are you still a youth at this time? Like under 18?
Yes,
Okay.
I was a youth for the first 6 months there, and
Okay.
then I turned 18 and I ended up graduating high school out there.
Oh.
So brought it from a .87 GPA to graduating with a 3.2,
Wow.
um, and then came back here to Georgia and just kept going with that, trying to figure out like who am I?
Mm,
And that one of the things about me is I don't know how to quit. Like I don't know what that even means. And so I've just continued to push forward
mm.
no matter what. Like the I don't even know how to explain it, but I just kept going.
Okay, so I have a question then. So back, so right now, you don't really care what people think. You're like, I'm gonna live my life. You can have your opinion. I'm gonna live my life. So, uh, do you remember the time before that? And like, how would you, what would you do differently when you did care what people thought? So back when you used to think about what people, like you cared what they thought of you, you didn't want to be judged, and now you don't care. Kind of like give an example of the difference, how you'd handle different situation, like the same situation back then and now.
So, for example, with I guess I'm trying to think of one. When I did care about what people think of me, somebody, for example, one time said, they're like, "Oh, you like Katy Perry?" And I just got really angry. And then, like, I liked a lot of music. I love Katy Perry, Ava Max, the Backstreet Boys, and Sync. And there was a lot of people who were like, "Oh, gross, you like them?" And at that time, I was like, "No," I just got really angry and all like pumped up about it.
Mhm.
And the other aspect was like being a virgin. Like I don't consider my assaults to count as
Mm-hmm.
losing that. So I am still a virgin. And just, yeah, learning about that. And the other part was like, I love being single and I don't want to be married. I don't want to have kids. And in fact, I've taken steps to where I can't have kids. And so people again back then were like, "Oh, you have to do this." And I was like, "Okay, I would go along with that and act like I wanted to be a parent, act like I wanted to have kids."
Mm-hmm.
And now today, I had somebody the other day be like, "You're a virgin, you don't want to have kids or anything?" I'm like, "No, I don't.
Mm.
I know myself and I don't want kids, and kids shouldn't have a parent that doesn't want them."
Oh yeah.
So really just being fine with people thinking whatever they want to think about me doesn't
Mm.
bother me anymore. And I don't go along with their stuff unless I truly want it.
So you stopped abandoning your own likes and wants and needs, and you can stand stand in them without anger or without being like lashing out or anybody. You're just like, oh no, that's cool. Like that's not for me. Cool if it's for you, but I'm good. And then if they're
Exactly.
like, and you're just like not going to be angry about it, or you're not going to pretend you like it so that they so you fit in, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I
And
love
if I do get angry, and I do, I'm human, so
that. Hmm.
uh, I just allow myself to feel it. And but it's generally not because of something that somebody thinks about me.
Yeah.
Seems like for me, I'm an atheist. Um, and I know a lot of people who do believe, and I'm like, hey, cool, you do you. If
Mhm.
that what helps you, that really matters. And I'm gonna do me, and hey, uh, yeah, not trying to control everyone, which is
I like that.
so much less tiring.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so if we have a listener that, let's say their egg just cracked and they're so new on their journey, that at the beginning of their journey, what advice would you give to them?
Um, I would say keep going with it.
Mhm.
Um, I would, it is difficult. Not gonna, I won't sugarcoat it and say it's easy because it's not, but it's worth it and you're worth it. And, just keep going with it. And reach out to Steph, reach out to other people, because definitely having that support system has been so helpful. And there's so many resources out there.
Mhm.
Google, it's great, beautiful thing. So yeah, just keep fighting, keep going. And I'm gonna quote, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and so I'm gonna quote Aragorn right before the Battle of Helm's Deep,
Okay.
when there's a young boy who was is his first battle, and Aragorn was talking to him, and he says, they say that there's no hope. And Aragorn just puts his hand on his shoulder and looks directly at him and says, there's always hope.
Mhm.
And I just want to make that clear to the newer people and just to people in general. Like, keep going. Even if it seems insurmountable, as long as you're breathing, your heart's pumping, your brain's working, you can do it.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. That's really good. And okay, so what's a misconception about trans women that you wish more people understood?
Oof, that is a long list.
I know. I know. But tell me from your perspective.
One of the biggest misconceptions is it involves sexuality.
Mm,
Um, like for me, I'm a lesbian, and there's a big conception that all trans women want to hook up with guys, and that we're this very like want to sleep with everyone, very,
mm,
pardon my language, slutty
yeah,
type of
promiscuous. Yeah, very, yeah.
exactly. And it's not like that. I mean, some of us are, sure, but not every single trans woman wants to get with everybody. And,
Mm,
we're not, most of us, we're more likely to be targeted than we are to target other people. Like, we're
mm,
not going to bother people. I mean, hell, we've been targeted our whole lives. And so it's just like, hey, I don't want to. So we're people. We're just trying to live our lives as best we can.
mm,
So I
mm.
know that was like a conglomerate of,
Yeah, but it's true. It's like every trans woman I've met just wants the freedom to live
mhm,
without being harmed, without like rights being taken away,
right.
without like I don't know, just they just want to live and enjoy life and be themselves and feel safe doing so, you know?
Hmm.
Okay, okay, what has been one of the most surprisingly like either easy or hard parts of your transition? Like what's something you were like, "Whoa, I thought that was going to be so easy, but this is actually difficult," or like, "Whoa, that was way easier than I thought."
So one of the easiest ones was going and trying on clothes.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
because I built it up in my head like, oh, this is going to be so difficult. And people are going to be staring at me and this and that. And I went in there and nobody cared. Everyone was just like, okay, cool, come on in. And like trying on, like when I went and got fitted for my bra size, I did go to Victoria's Secret,
Okay.
and all the people there were just like, hey, okay, girl, come on in, you be you, put on whatever. So that was surprisingly easy. And then the surprisingly hard thing, I don't know. I mean, I guess it was like big part with allowing stuff.
Mm.
Like, because I figured at one point I was like, oh, I'm gonna be out and fully gleaming and glistening and all this. And then I was like, oh, yeah, this is difficult.
Mm.
But again, kept perseverant and kept with it. I think one of the biggest parts, now that I think about it, was figuring out two things. One, figuring out my sexuality.
Mm.
That was a very difficult thing to do. And then the other part was sizing. And I still have trouble with sizing. I tell y'all, ladies, sizing is a pain,
Mhm.
but it's worth it. Just welcome to being a woman, y'all.
Yes, yes. And I mean the sizing is it. They make it
Mm,
complicated.
right.
Um, okay, when do you feel the most affirmed?
Um, like from other people or
Yeah,
from
or from yourself too. Like when do you wake up and you just feel so good? And when you look in the mirror and be like, heck yes, girl, versus like, oh, I wish this was different. Because you know, us ladies are so hard on ourselves. Like, oh, if only I did this, or if only I did that, if my nose was different, my ears were da da da. But so when do you feel the most affirmed by yourself and from others?
the most affirmed I feel from myself is when I've listened to a lot of like feminine stuff. Like I listen to a lot of your stuff, your recordings, and of course I have my own personalized hypnosis stuff. And by the way, y'all, if you haven't ordered one of hers, it's amazing.
Thank you.
Go for it. It really has helped out. But listening to fem things and then waking up and just being like, okay, cool. I'm me. And learning like I wake up and I now if I see myself in the mirror, in spite of having certain stuff, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm still a woman. I'm still hot. I mean, and I flirt with myself a lot. That has been a big
Oh, tell me
look in the
more about
mirror.
that. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I look in the mirror and I'm just like, damn, girl, you're looking good. You got a phone number? And I will literally flirt with myself. Um, and that's been a big thing, big part of it. Because I do feel better when I flirt with myself.
Oh, I love that. I love it. And I feel like that's no different than looking in the mirror and being like, oh, why are you looking
Mhm.
like this, right? And so it's like, it's just what are you choosing to do with that time in the mirror? Are you using the
Yeah.
mirror as a weapon or are you using the mirror as a friend, as a tool, as something to like uplift yourself? So, what a
Yeah.
fun way to do mirror work and like play with yourself and just have like a fun experience and uplift your energy. And, I love it. Because I do that sometimes too. Like, I'll look in the mirror, like, dang girl, you look good today. Like, look at you
Mhm.
looking all cute, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other, with as far as from other people goes,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have like a praise thing. I love it. And so if someone's like, you look really pretty, or like my stepsister, wow, my sister-in-law and my brother, they are the two most accepting ones. And they're like, damn, girl, you've been looking good today. And so just when other people recognize, and
Mm-hmm.
people are starting to they see me and they just immediately are like, yes, ma'am, or her, or that feels great.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sees me for who I am.
I love that. Oh, that's so good. I feel like that's a really common one. I feel like a lot of people like raise your hand in the comments if you can relate to that when someone refers to you as ma'am, how like warm and fuzzy and affirming that feels. I feel like that's a big one for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Um, really, really feel good about. Okay, what's a question you wished I would have asked you?
I don't know. Um, I guess what that's gonna take me a second.
Okay, take a second.
I guess how did I discover like what I prefer? How did I
Hmm.
discover my preferences?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. So yeah, great, exactly, because you said that was like a huge part for you was figuring it out. So how did you discover your preferences?
Well, I definitely allowed a lot of stuff. Like I was always taught, you don't talk about these things. You don't talk about sex. You don't talk about this or that. And then I was just like, no. no, we're going to talk about it. And so the more I talked about it and the more I wrote these stories, and a big thing is I use a lot of like AI apps.
Hmm.
And so that's been a big thing. And like letting go of the idea that I have to be attracted to men because I'm not at all. I think they're gross and untrustworthy. Um, and I know a lot of women can agree with me on that. But I was just like, okay, like I don't have to like men. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I have to.
Just like
And
you don't have
so
to shop at Victoria's Secret.
exactly, I can shop at Target or Belk's or Marshall's.
Yes.
All have really amazing stuff. And so yeah, I mean, I let go of the quote rules and just allowed myself to be like, I can be a lesbian. I can be into women.
And so then did you find talking with women that you started feeling more of the butterflies or the sparks or the like, oh, I wonder, or like all of that stuff versus talking to men. And then you're like, oh, I'm gonna keep following this curiosity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely, there's a lot of women that are in my life that are really gorgeous. And I'm just like, a lot of them I can't flirt with because I'm like, they're certain people,
Hmm.
like people I work with or like my therapist she's gorgeous. I can't hit on her. So navigating that. And I've had guys hit on me and I tell them like, hey, there's somebody out there for you. It's not me. Just
Hmm.
go on your way. And some of them do, and some of them try harder.
Oh yeah.
I can't really understand that. I just told you I'm a lesbian. You're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
Go away. So yeah, I mean, once I accepted that, that giddy like oh feeling started showing up.
That's awesome. Good. So I'm glad you let yourself kind of just like follow your curiosity. And again, another example of like not having to follow the rules.
Mhm.
And so I think that might be a good takeaway for anybody else listening too, is like really think about like, are there rules that you're giving yourself that you think you have to follow? And like, what happens if you put those rules away and if you have to have rules, maybe rewrite new ones that are like, follow my curiosity,
Right.
explore, try new things, just like test it all out and see what I like, whether that's the makeup or clothing or where to eat or like, have you ever seen that movie Runaway Bride?
Yes.
And how she's like, I don't even know what kind of eggs I like. And so she has to like make all the different kinds of eggs and taste them so she can be like, what do I like? Right. So I think sometimes with life, we got to allow ourselves that, especially when you've spent your whole life trying to fit in and wearing a mask and trying to overcompensate by going the opposite direction. So sometimes you just have to give yourself that permission to be like, hey, I'm gonna just figure me out and do me. So,
Yeah, that's been crucial. It's
mhm.
is yeah, we whole lives, just women in general, are told this is who you are. And and I think that's just people in general. Like we're in a society that's like live this way
Mhm.
and realizing no, you do you, you
Yeah.
live you.
Yeah.
To throw the rules out the window, find out who you are.
I love that. Throw the rules out the window, have some fun, make some mistakes, figure it out. Okay.
Absolutely.
Sarah, what does becoming her mean to you personally?
It means, as cliche as this sounds, it means freedom
Oh.
because, that's the whole thing right there. It's just being free to be the woman that I've always been,
Mhm.
regardless of what anyone else thinks. And like breaking away and being like, this is me. I'm awesome. You like it, don't like it, whatever.
Mm, I
So
love
that's
that, the freedom.
a big part.
Okay, so one more, well, kind of two more questions, but if you were to share whether it's like a resource or a tool or an item or a piece of like skincare, makeup, self-care, anything. If there was like one thing you've discovered on your journey that you're like, holy cow, this is amazing. Everyone should have this, what would it be?
Hmm. I would say there's two things,
Okay.
but I'm kind of hesitant to talk about one of them. But the first one, absolutely. Lavender. I know some people are sensitive to smells, but feminine smells,
Oh,
um,
feminine scents. Yeah.
huge thing. And to be honest, um, like for me, especially since I'm single, um, I'll tell you, like honestly, a vibrator is, I didn't realize how amazing it is until I got one.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
think every woman should have one, honestly. Uh,
Yes.
so, and just that goes in again, allowing ourselves to
Mhm.
have it.
Yeah, and I think that's so important too, is like something I've discovered is that just having your own confidence in your own just like sensuality and sexuality and just feeling sexy and pretty and attractive and all of those things are so important. And I think like being able to have self-pleasure if you're like single or even if you're in a relationship or however, the whole buffet, I guess. So just like allowing yourself to give yourself pleasure without the shame or the guilt or all the stuff around there, I think is so important. And I do think more and more people are trying to make that less of a taboo topic because, I mean, we're human. It's part of how our bodies are designed, whether you believe God designed it or just designed by science or however. But anyway, we have pleasure points and it can just be part of your femininity, learning to receive and to just enjoy,
Yeah.
which is very much feminine energy. So no, those are really great. And then also, wait, what did you say? Oh, feminine smells. I think that is so, I would have never thought of that as something that is like so important to do, but that makes so much sense. Like just have, whether it's perfume or like a candle or like a spray for your room, how much that can help affirm you and like center and ground you. Like what a good suggestion. I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Sarah, is there anything that you wanted to share that you didn't get to share?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I shared pretty much. I mean, I'm sure after this recording, I'll be like, oh, crap, I should have shared this. But I'm just honored that I could be here and that I could do this. And I hope everybody gets something out of this. And if not, that's cool too. I mean, hey, y'all do you. It's been a big part of this whole video is do you.
Mm-hmm. And
And
if anything, you and I got to have a great conversation, hang out for an hour. So that was really fun.
absolutely, I've been looking forward to this all ever since I emailed you about doing this. I was like, yes.
Yes. Yes, I
So
love it. I love it. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing like your insights, your takeaways, your perspective, a little bit of your journey. I know there's no way to share your like whole journey, but the like little couple highlights from it. So thank you so much. And if anybody else wants to share your story, just send me an email to stephanie@beautifullychanged.com and we can book a spot for you to come on and share your story. And yeah, just thank you so much for being here. And Sarah, you're such a doll. I absolutely love you and thank you for coming. And everyone else, give Sarah love in the comments. Like share whatever you can relate with or share your own, like answer your own questions in the comments if you want to. And let's have a conversation. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Sarah.